Welcome to the EdTech Unpacked podcast, where we inspire and equip educators to create learning experiences, highlighting a thoughtful approach to integration of technology as we teach and transform the lives of our students.
We're so glad that you're joining us on this episode where we will be talking about all things classroom assessment, from the important things to keep in mind when planning assessments to previewing some great options that might just be the solution you've been looking for.
I am Desmond Suarez, and I work at Richmond Academy, where I have been teaching for over a decade. I teach religion, social studies, computers, and videography. I am a proud graduate of Southern Adventist University with a bachelor's degree in religious education and a minor in computers. And I have received my master's in instructional systems and learning technology from Florida State University. I really love helping people learn so that they can fulfill their greatest potential and finding the best tools to accomplish this.
I can't help but notice Desmond's shirt here, and man, I'm going to make up for it Southwestern on a future episode, but shout out to Southern Adventist University that Desmond just mentioned.
Yes.
There. My name is Aaron Long, and I work at Burton Adventist Academy here in Arlington, Texas, where I've also been teaching for over a decade and now work in the area of development and advancement. I'm a proud graduate of Southwestern Adventist University, where I received my bachelor's degree in religious education and a minor in psychology. I received my master's in instructional design and technology from Walden University in 2017, and I have a passion for leading and inspiring educators, especially in the area of thoughtful integration of classroom technology.
Aaron, before we get to the discussion, I just want to say universities, I graduated from Southern, but if you work at a university, reach out to us and so you can send us a t-shirt. We'll wear it on the show. We should represent higher education wherever we can.
I love it. I 100% would wear a t-shirt. Send us one.
Do it.
All right. So Desmond, I have really been looking forward to this episode.
You can't stop talking about it.
Honestly, I've referenced it to him for a few months now, how excited I am. And it's because I actually love creating assessments. And
that's crazy, man.
As a math teacher, that just kind of goes lock and step with teaching math, in my opinion.
I always pretend that I love assessments. Don't tell my students this. And, I sing songs to them when it's assessment time and get all excited about it. But I always find them a drag. So inspire me a little.
All right. I mean, no doubt by the end of this episode, you will find yourself inspired. And I hope everybody joining us today does as well. All right. So actually, before we get to all the inspirational stuff here, I wanted to set the stage a little bit and honestly talk through a few critical elements of assessments. And so I'm going to ask you a question here.
All right.
What do you think, Desmond, are some important factors in creating and facilitating assessments?
Oh, man, there's so many. One is just if we talk about the system that we're giving it on, like the integrity of it, making sure that it's reliable, making sure that it's hard to cheat through.
I like it.
Yeah. And easy for the students to take the assessment on. I want it to be easy for me as a teacher, but there's been a few times where I've used technology, more than a few probably. And the technology has really taken center stage above the activity or what we're doing. And I regret every time that happens. And especially when it was technology. The assessment platform that I use most of the time happened to crash on exam day a few months ago. I think it was a winter exam. And I was using a new part of their exam platform, and that was the part that crashed. And so I had to scramble and print it and we were worried that some of it would save and some of it wouldn't. And so it was I printed it, but I also give the option to try to do it online if it didn't crash. And my biggest frustration with that is that the technology got in the way of the students taking the assessment. I want them to forget what platform they're taking an assessment on.
It shouldn't get in the way.
Don't get in the way.
That's a great way to put it.
It shouldn't be flashy. It shouldn't be distracting or buggy. It just needs to work. And that's it.
I love it. Great reminders there. So I have a couple things I wanted to share that just really stand out to me. And the first one is this. it's the importance of the assessment. And so often we do things backwards, right? We plan out our teaching and the topics, and then we get to the end of a unit or a chapter or a chunk of content, and we say, all right, now we're going to create our assessment. What did I teach? Let's go back over that. And it's backwards, because good educators, the best educators, have clarity in, number one, what is most important to teach and assess. And number two, creating that assessment piece before they do their teaching. And then number three, designing their teaching around those important things they want to assess. So I thought it would be just really important for us to understand, this isn't just about what assessment platform are we recommending, because that's not really what we're doing. We're highlighting a few today and showing how those could fit in your classroom. But more importantly, I want to emphasize the importance of creating very high quality assessments. It's critical to a healthy, effective teaching environment. So I want to encourage you, if that's not the way you've been thinking of it, give it some thought, because once my mind clicked over to, wow, the assessment is actually what should be guiding the instruction, that was a profound moment when I came to that realization. And then secondly, you touched on this one a bit, but it's creating an environment where kids can be successful in taking their assessment. Shouldn't get in the way. But it also shouldn't be easy to cheat, because you don't want them to be tempted, and because of either a weak platform or a lack of supervision, they give in to temptation. So I wanted to highlight a very low tech element to this, and that is whatever technology platform we present, it's not going to solve all of those problems. It takes active, engaged teachers moving about their classroom, reducing the opportunities for students to cheat or be tempted to cheat, because they know that you're there holding them accountable. It's not a technology platform doing it. It's you as the teacher. So nothing we show today is going to replace great, active, engaged teachers. And so that is paramount. Within that framework, now I feel like we can share some inspirational things. Are we ready?
Yeah. And well, let me add a little to that. And, coming back on, I'll work backwards. With the monitoring and stuff, the best monitoring service you can use is yourself as the teacher, right? To be around the room and to watch a monitor. I was recently giving an exam, and I thought my monitoring software was working the way it should, but then I noticed one of the students was doing some weird stuff, and I walked over there and found out that they were cheating, unfortunately. And I had relied, I felt bad myself because I felt like I had relied too much. Yeah, they did the wrong thing, right? But I had relied too much on the technology to do the monitoring for me instead of me being as proactive as I should have. And I'm glad I was able to catch it. And I pray that the student learned the lesson, and this is the last time they'll ever do it. But I felt like it could have been more successful if I had depended on my experience as a teacher more than the technology. And I apologize if you hear my kids in the hallway. Hopefully you didn't hear them too much. They're just having fun.
Editor, if you did hear them too much, you can take it out somehow. Or
it's happy noises. Let's just leave it in there. They're not fighting right now. I think my youngest is singing while he roller skates up and down the school hallway. The school's closed right now. But also going back to your other point, my journey as a teacher, I've told you that I really don't like assessments. I find them kind of cumbersome to make. I feel them often cumbersome to grade, and then find the classroom time to do them, and just like I just want to teach. Right. And so, I love teaching, actively teaching, but assessments is such a key part of teaching. And I have been accepting that and realizing the importance of that more and more. That's one of the, I feel like, teacher journeys that I'm on, that I've been on for the last couple of years. And especially with my social studies classes, my histories and stuff, of doing more frequent assessments, doing deeper assessments, doing multiple levels on Bloom's taxonomy, hitting the lower level and all the way up through the higher level on the assessments. And my students, I feel like, are paying attention. My instruction is better. I see a clear difference with the students who are insisting on sleeping in class versus those that are paying attention. I can see it so clearly on the assessments, and I think, and then they see it, and some of them takes a while to learn, but to figure that out. But I think it's helping them realize that they have to pay attention, and so it's helping my instruction more too.
You just highlighted something there. You're not just measuring the student's proficiency on a standard or skill or topic or mastery of knowledge. You're also measuring your effectiveness as a teacher.
Yes.
And so that was another kind of light bulb thing that when I realized that, wow, this assessment can help me understand my own effectiveness, then it's actually an assessment for me too.
Yes.
And so, and when you explain that to the kids, and by the way, we're going to actually see how that's possible today in this deep dive. It's exciting, and they appreciate it because they realize that sometimes they perform poorly in areas that perhaps you intended to provide more instruction and guidance on, but you didn't. And that comes back to creating your assessment first and your instructional content second. When you follow that religiously, you will well prepare the students for the assessment over the topics that matter most. We all deviate at times, and we don't always execute perfectly, and the assessment reveals that. So I'm very excited to kind of dive in here.
And I know you're excited, but also like, sorry.
That's okay. This is all important stuff. So what do you have?
I've seen it so clearly with you talk about grading the teacher. Like when I have a sub, and I see on the assessment the time in which the sub came in, they understand that stuff less than when I was teaching. It for one makes me figure out I need to work better on my sub plans, and figure out those instructions a little better. But also it does validate my instruction as well, saying that, hey, this was valuable to the students' learning because here's the gap of when I didn't do it, and how can we fix that? Yeah. You want to talk about AI right now? This is a good time.
How about
or is it
this?
later?
No, we can talk about it now. I'm going to go ahead and get set up here to do some sharing, and Desmond is really our AI powerhouse think tank.
Every time I talk about AI, people ask me to talk more about it. I find it interesting. I don't want it to replace us, so I'm not like a person who's like anxious to do it, except we are living in a reality of AI. And I think that was really key to assessments because, we talked, I think, a little bit about in our AI episode, which we'll have to continue to do more on. But when it's so easy to cheat on homework now that you send home, or even classwork that you're not paying attention to, it's with generative AI, the importance of valid assessments. And I don't think that assessments is just a test. When you use assessment, we're talking mostly about tests as assessment, tests and quizzes, that format here. However, assessments, and that's a very broad topic that I won't go on too much on, except valid assessments are going to increasingly become more and more important as AI exists. And sometimes that means, assessing in a world where AI, they can use AI, but yet you're testing them on other things, or just where they have times where they cannot use AI. So if they were depending on it for assignments to do the work for them, then now you will see that come up in when they actually take the assessment, and you'll see those gaps, and they will see those gaps where they see, I have to learn this. I can't just have an AI do it for me. And so I think that I've done it. We've done it in my school, increased the value on the report card of assessments and in the classroom, increasing the amounts. While I don't love them, I think they are I say I don't love them just because they're kind of like the chore, I feel like, of teaching, but they are so important, especially in a world where homework is almost to a point where it doesn't show you the learning. It's exercises, but it doesn't show you the learning.
And I think too, you're highlighting, we could get into the difference between summative and formative assessments, but you're really highlighting the need for more frequent formative assessments.
Yes.
And I think classrooms that's embedded, the tools we're highlighting today, yes, maybe you could use them for formative assessments, I'm really presenting these more as a summative assessment option, but frequent, daily, really formative assessments, when you're checking for understanding, you're not waiting until the end of a content chunk to figure out what the kids know. It's really our job as educators to learn and know and be plugged in with understanding on a daily basis how effective our instruction is, how much the kids are picking it up, where's that gap. And so it almost removes, the concern about, is AI doing the work for the student if you're doing more frequent checks of understanding?
Completely.
That looks like. So, all right. So we're actually going to jump in here, Desmond.
Okay. With
your permission, because I know you've had a lot to say on this topic already. So I'm feeling your passion and enthusiasm for assessments. Okay. We're going to jump in here. I'm going to share my screen with you guys to Google Classroom. Big shock, right? And we're going to actually take a look at a very basic and free assessment creation platform, Google Classroom. And so we're in our classroom, our mock 8th grade class here that Desmond is my only student in. And you're going to see here in a few minutes, he's going to have a chance to take an assessment, which I'm very excited about. And we're going to create a new content piece. And if you're familiar, you have kind of 4 tabs here in Google Classroom. The second one in classwork is your ability to create content. I'm going to say a quiz assignment. This doesn't have to be a quiz. It could be a summative assessment, a test. And so we're going to go ahead and jump in and see what happens. So Google Classroom will create automatically for us a Google form, and it attaches it to that assignment. And so I love the workflow here in that it really simplifies. Before, as a teacher, you had to create the Google form and then set it up as an assessment, which there's settings in there to do that, and then grab that link and assign it over in Google Classroom. Now it's all integrated. You're just clicking on a single button, and I can click through from Google Classroom to that quiz or test and create my questions. Obviously, we're going to want to require every question to be answered. I love that it already attaches the answer key so I can plug in my answers. You're not going to watch me create an assessment. I won't bore you with that. What I wanted you to see is how simple it is to get straight over into your assessment simply by launching a new quiz assignment from Google Classroom. And it's all the settings are already set up. I'm accepting responses. They'll dump into a Google Sheet if I click that button. And the settings that I needed to have set are already set. There's just not much to do, and that's what I love about this feature. Now, drawbacks. It's very simplistic. I'm not pulling from a database of questions that other teachers are contributing to. That's the ideal. This does not offer that. I'm not tagging my questions with standards, although there's ways to do that using topics that I think we've already touched on previously in a prior episode. There's definite holes in this, and it's a very simplistic type of assessment platform. That's why it's probably best for formative assessments, on the fly stuff, where I just want to capture a real quick preview of what the students know and don't know. Exit tickets. This would be a great platform for doing exit tickets. And it's all integrated into your LMS, Google Classroom, if that's what you're using. So I love it as a basic platform for assessments. Now, we're going to transition a little bit. That's a quick preview of what you could get started with. I would actually like to transition over to Pear Assessment. All right, so we're jumping into Pear Assessment here. And by the way, many of us, myself included, have used this platform for a number of years, and it was formerly known as Edulastic. So if you've ever heard of Edulastic, it is now Pear Assessment. And same great product. And in fact, they've had some awesome new releases. But that's what we're looking at here. I'm on my dashboard, and I wanted to show you just how easy it is to create an assessment with a very rich database to pull from. So I'm going to jump in here, and instead of taking the easy road, I'm actually going to say create your own test, and I'm going to say author a test. On this next screen, in our last episode, in fact, we showed how you can create a snap quiz up by uploading a PDF. You have a new feature here for video quizzes. This is pretty fantastic. There's other great products out there we've highlighted that do this very thing. Pear Assessment now integrates that, where you can grab a YouTube video or upload your own content, pause the video, embed your questions. It's a pretty great enhancement they've recently released.
That is a good one.
Google Forms. Wow, we were just looking at Google. If you have lived in that world and that's how you've been creating your assessments, you can import them here. And trust me, after you see this, you're going to want to explore this further because it is really fantastic. Other great tools, Smart Build using AI. You can also create assessments, but we're going to go in and say from scratch because I want you to see just how simple and robust at the same time this workflow is. Now, when I set up this account, it's a demo account, but we set it up as my jam, a junior high math teacher. So that's what I have done for much of my teaching career. So I have 6th, 7th, and 8th grade mathematics. You can see that the Common Core standard set is selected. We're going to actually explore how you can do some different things there. And based on that, if I click my pop-out feature, I can see 6th, 7th, and 8th grade Common Core standards populate. It's very quick and easy to get to. We're going to go ahead and jump to something here. We're going to go, how about let's do 8th grade functions. All right, love it. This includes things like graphing equations of lines using slope-intercept form. Everybody's favorite from 8th grade.
I don't remember those words.
Well, you're about to get tested on it, so you might want to crunch real quick because that's going to be the topic of our assessment.
So you're doing this wrong because you told me you're giving me an assessment. He did give me that, but I had no idea what it was on. I didn't know it was being, about some cartoon, or is it going to be about actual math? You're going to see that why I did not end up being a math teacher.
So you can see here, I can select multiple standards. I could have as many standards as I want. When I say apply, by nature, the platform will populate a list of questions here. In fact, it's not a list. It's 3,852 questions that are already
That might be too many for one quiz.
Right, that other teachers have created. And I can simply go through and look for ones that appeal to me, that assess the specific skill I'm looking to assess, that are aligned to that standard. So I'm going to grab this one here, but first we're going to preview it. And you can see, I have a very rich question type where you're actually graphing the line. You're not multiple choicing this. You're not filling the blank. You're graphing a line. And one of the things I love here is you have about 40 different question types that EdgeElastic, formerly EdgeElastic, now Pear Assessment, allows for. But before I just say add to test, okay, I'm going to do something here, and I'm going to copy this question. I want to just share this. A lot of the databases and platforms similar to this operate differently. One thing I love that Pear Assessment allows you to do is to copy an assessment question. And by doing so, you then become the owner of that question, meaning you can then edit that question. So we're going to jump over into edit mode here, and I could modify it if I want. But what I really care about, and this is where I think one of the neat features comes along, is the metadata. I can go in and edit the metadata. So let's check this out. We've got Common Core was tagged with the 2 standards we were looking at. I can change the depth of knowledge. I can tag it. I can say, well, this is actually not medium. This is easy. I can edit that. I have a Bloom's taxonomy tag as well I can use. I can custom tag this. But one of the neat things here that I love is being able to tag multiple standards and sets of standards on one question. So I can hit my drop down here and say, you know what, it's already tagged with Common Core. I'm going to jump in here and look for, in this case, the North America Division standards. If that's unfamiliar to you, don't worry about it. Probably unfamiliar to a lot of people. But I can see NAD Mathematics Standards is an option.
Very familiar.
In 8th grade, I click in my browse bar here, and I get a list of NAD standards that I can now tag with this particular question. So without taking too much time to correlate these, we're going to say this is probably 8 proportional. That's not proportional relationships. You would think I would know this better, right? So I don't want to get this wrong, because certainly somebody watching will be like, nope, that was the wrong standard.
I'm already claiming ignorance. So
8.0.2, here we go. We've tagged that accurately.
And that actually brings up a good point to me. User-generated questions and content is an awesome, and we're going to do a later episode about like, oh man, I'm blanking on what it's called. Free content created by teachers for other teachers, which is awesome. But the thing that you always have to be cautious about is if it's a question created by a teacher, it's vetted by at least one person, right? Maybe their classroom. So it might not be accurate. You got to check for accuracy. I find mistakes in my textbook, and textbook questions are often vetted by committees, right? And people who that is their job to make, questions other people are going to use. And so it's probably wise. Have you found mistakes in some of these questions?
Yeah. In fact, I've made mistakes in questions I've submitted to the database and later discovered it. So you have an excellent point there. So one thing I would highlight is Pear Assessment has their own database of vetted questions.
Oh, they use that first
element.
Yeah.
And so you can actually default to that if you prefer. They have about 80,000 questions at the time of filming here that are part of that portion of the database.
That's a lot of questions.
Beyond that, there's hundreds of thousands of questions already created. And just, pausing from my screen share for a moment, just talking, all kinds of incredible engaging content types. If you teach science, you can grab, again, pre-created here, but a picture or diagram of the heart. And they have a pinning question type where you drag a pin and match it to the part of the picture that you're labeling. Really rich types of questions that I'm really impressed at. So I'm demonstrating math, phenomenal math question types. But beyond that, all content areas are included and covered. And so that's something I think is really neat. There's something for everybody.
That's good.
Including music. I've had students of mine at Southwestern Adventist University use this platform to create music assessments. And so very diverse in what you can do with it. All right, Desmond, I have a 3-question quiz here. This is really, really basic. Okay. Basic 8th grade math. Do you want to give it a shot?
I do. I want to embarrass myself in front of everyone. Let's go for it. All right.
We're almost there. And so what I want to do is just share with you is I was adding items from my Add Items tab. It's creating my assessment here that I can review. I could edit this if I like, but I'm going to jump into settings here. We're going to highlight the settings, and then I'm going to assign you this assessment. And while you're taking it, we're going to have a look around Pear Assessment to see some of the neat reporting features it offers.
Sounds good. So
here we go.
It's available?
I'm sorry?
It's available?
Oh, not yet. No.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'll tell you when it's available.
Okay.
Take your editor. You might have to cut that out.
No, leave those things in.
Okay. All right. We'll let you use your discretion. Here we go. So we're going to say, we're going to look through the different setting options here because this is very robust. I have the choice as a teacher to not release scores or responses to students when they submit it. So they submit it and then they have no knowledge of what happened. They can see their score immediately because the beauty of this type of platform is it will auto score unless, of course, you have free response questions that you'll score later. You can release scores and students can see their responses, or you can release scores, the student response, as well as the correct answer all at once. So you get to determine that. I'm going to release everything to Desmond, so he'll get to see immediately how he did.
How me cheer or cry. I will see.
You can determine how it will be scored, partial credit or not. If it's marked done automatically, you can determine if this is a timed assessment or not. I'm not a big fan of timed assessments. I'll leave it untimed. You can actually, if this is a practice assessment, you can determine students can take it more than once and say they can take this up to 3 times. You can allow them to check their answer. Okay, this is a neat little feature for maybe a formative assessment or something where you're wanting to drive engagement. You can give them 2 checks where they can put in an answer and check and see if it's right or not. They won't be seeing the correct answer unless they are correct, then they'll be told that they were correct. So I love that little feature there of checking. For math, you can put in calculators. I'm not going to give Desmond a graphing calculator. He'll get a
I gotta
scientific
find it. I
graph
think I want some
calculator.
around here.
We have, we can allow hints. So a lot of these questions you'll see come with hints. And so if a teacher that created the question included a hint, then you can turn that on and they'll see the hint if they ask for it. I typically keep that off. Reference material, I could upload any kind of assistance type of that I wanted as a PDF. Magnifier, so there's some great assistive technologies built in.
That is very
magnifier, scratch pad. I can have a skip alert, so if students are trying to skip, I can be alerted. Lots of features. Not going to hit every single one. We have accommodations, immersive reader and text-to-speech. Fantastic options that I can assign corporately or to students individually. And then we get down here to some of the things Desmond alluded to in the anti-cheating section. I could shuffle questions. So from one student to the next, they're seeing them in different order. I can shuffle answer choices. So A on one question is B on another if it's the correct answer. I can put in a test password. So you have to have the password to even open it. I can require students complete an assessment in one setting. I love that option. So if they need to complete it before they go to PE, they're going to sit in front of me and do that. They can't do most of it, go to the hallway, relaunch it, finish it out there. I can watch them and make sure they're completing it in one sitting. I can restrict question navigation so they can't advance till they've answered a question. I can require safe exam browser mode. This is big. This does require the install of the specified browser on each student device. But if I have this on, then once a student launches the assessment, it will open it in the exam browser and they cannot escape that until they're done. Love that feature. I can restrict their navigation out of the test. This will require them to go into full screen mode, but then they cannot leave the assessment until they complete it. And then I have other options to allow them to answer on paper, and I can score it manually later. Turn on language settings, and then, of course, see my performance bands of mastery. So lots of incredible settings here that I really love. I'm going to go ahead and assign this now by clicking Assign. We're going to call this Desmond's 8th grade math check. Here we go. All right.
It's been a while since I've been in 8th grade.
And then at this last stage, I get to choose what classroom I'm sending it to. I'm sending it to my 8th grade class where Desmond is a student. If I wanted to just give it to one student, I could pick them here, and you see Desmond shows up, or I can send it to the whole class. And then I get to decide how I want to open it. I can do that automatically now, or I can do it manually in class. I'm going to say automatically.
I see it. That was quick.
Assign. All right. So you said I see it as I was just barely clicking.
That is incredible. I was wondering if I need to refresh or something, but that was,
no.
I like that because my students are always having to refresh. Oh, man. Right, so I'm already failing on the first question.
I only gave Desmond 3 questions. All right. So
but I have to graph. I haven't graphed in decades.
Well, you can skip question 1 and come back.
I won't skip it. I'm just going to put a line down, and I don't remember.
So here's what's neat. As Desmond's starting to work on this, Desmond, we're looking at the monitoring dashboard that teachers enjoy. So you would see all of your student tiles here, and I can see question by question how they're performing. So as Desmond enters an answer and goes to the next question, we'll see if he got it right or wrong real time. So Desmond, we're going to know your score before you even submit. No pressure.
Well, I'm already getting it wrong. I'm just putting a pretty line on the graph.
Come on. I want you to have a little more self-confidence there.
No, I don't remember. I remember this. I remember doing this. I don't remember how to do it.
Okay, fair enough.
All right.
So we're gonna leave that for a minute, and we're actually gonna take a look around as Desmond's working here, and we're gonna take a look in demo mode. Desmond, before we left the screen, we did see a red bar appear.
Told you.
And so I'm sorry to tell you, I'm gonna confirm you did miss question number 1. You wouldn't normally know that, except we were still on the screen. I thought I'd share that with you.
I greatly appreciate that.
So we're gonna do this. We're gonna jump out. Go to the demo playground. So we're launching the demo playground. And you can see other teachers have been in here playing around as well. We're just going to jump back in time and find an assessment we can dig through some data. Okay, so here's a completed assessment. In your dashboard, it would look very similar once an assessment is completed. And we're just going to launch this assessment so we can see what all tools we have available. All right, we can see this has been given a couple times to 2 different divisions of a class. We can drill down. First of all, we can see, proficiency levels achieved by the groups that have taken this. We can look at subgroups and see, well, one class did very poorly and scored on average 53%. The other class did really well and scored 87% on the same assessment. And then we can drill down within those groups and see further. We can also jump into the actual questions and see how students performed on each question. And in the intro, you remember I highlighted that assessments are for checking student understanding, but it's also checking for teachers' effectiveness in communicating and teaching the content. And honestly, if I had students score 32%, like this question was scored here, I would say my bad. And I would tell them that, because we go over these assessment results together after they complete their assessment. And if we have a question that scores that poorly, I say, guys, I clearly failed you. We can do better as a group. And I would even consider throwing out that question based on the lack of results there. All right, Desmond, we're going to peek back at you here. All right. Hey, look.
Dude,
you pulled it together, didn't you?
I got a 66%, which is still a D.
Well, theoretically, I weighted one of those questions 2 points.
Hopefully not the first one.
You actually got a 75% on this assessment.
Oh, I see, 75. Now, I did say that I liked how when I went to review it, and I did screen record this so you can see it, but when I reviewed my responses, I could see they gave a lot of feedback about the question and why. And just quickly glancing at that, I remembered how to do this.
Yes.
And so now you give this, different numbers. I feel like I get 100% on this quiz.
Wow. And the power of immediate feedback. If you are not living in this world as a teacher and you haven't tried this out, man, I can't tell you enough how excited students get, how appreciative they are when they're getting their results live.
Yeah.
And that immediate feedback, like Desmond said, they don't have to wait a week for me to get around to grading it. It's immediate. And so it gives you the opportunity, and this is how I ran my class, to do a formative assessment that was identical to the summative at the end of a chapter or unit. And based on that, we'd go through that in depth. They have their immediate results. And then I create a second version that's identical other than the actual questions asked, same concepts assessed. And the students feel like they've taken the test before a lot of times because they're dialed in, they're getting immediate feedback. I'm clear on the expectations. I know what I want to assess. And to be honest, all the way around, teacher feels good, students feel good. Do students still struggle? Of course they do, because not all students are going to invest the time and energy that's still required. However, I know as a teacher, I'm giving them every opportunity to be successful. And
I like that.
So back over to our analysis results here, what we have access to. We can drill through by question. We can look at different question types, how they performed on the questions by question type. We can look at standards, and this is the piece I really love. So if you live in a standards-based assessment world, or you're in a system of schools where you know that day is coming, like Desmond and I are, it's important to not just understand how to locate the correct standard that aligns to a question, but to have a platform that allows you to evaluate students based on their performance according to standards. And that is something I love that is embedded with Pear Assessment. This, by the way, we're not receiving any compensation to talk about Pear Assessment. There are other platforms out there that are going to do similar things. We'll talk a little bit more about the getting set up with Pear Assessment piece and why I like it so much here in a minute. But what you're looking at on my screen right now is the standards-based assessment results. And if I scroll down, you can see by student how they performed percentage-wise on each standard. This clearly would not be a chapter assessment. Way too many standards here being assessed. You'd likely have 2, 3, 4, maybe. Standards on a chapter assessment, most commonly. If you're in a content area like social studies, it might even be 1 or 2 standards you're assessing. It may not be that many. But in math, we have a lot of standards to cover, and so it's very granular. And then, of course, lastly, I can drill down by student and see student performance, when they took the assessment, what proficiency band they reached, whether they're proficient, basic, or below basic. Incredible rich data available immediately as soon as the students hit submit. In fact, I can come back to Desmond's assessment report and look at it based on standards, which again is something I really enjoy doing. I can click through and see how he performed on the different standards. Really just a fantastic live look, providing student feedback that is invaluable in a modern classroom setting. All right, the last thing I'd like to mention here is, if you have no budget for this, something that, of course, these are current prices at the time of recording, but I'm not really here to show you what their current price is. I just like to highlight that Pear Assessment offers a completely free teacher option. I've used it, and to be honest, I haven't felt incredibly limited. Do you have every bell and whistle? No, you don't. But you can push out high-quality assessments using that crowdsourced element, pre-created teacher questions that you're just modifying to your liking. And you can get going today. It's quite easy, it's quite amazing, and it's totally free.
Free is a great price.
That's a great price. So wrapping this up, what are we looking for in an assessment platform? We want things that are well built, ideally also crowdsourced approach where question databases already exist. I don't have to go in and create everything from scratch. I don't have to modify something I've done. And to be honest, our last episode here of paper to digital, what I really hope is that some of our legendary teachers we talked about in that episode watch this episode and say, you know what? What am I so afraid of with holding on to all of the paper content? I can quickly and easily recreate it. Maybe not all in 1 year, but over the course of a few years, quickly and easily recreate very rich assessments that I can then year over year improve on. So these well-built assessment platforms that have a crowdsourced approach to question databases, super key as you're looking for that preferred platform. It doesn't need to be Pear Assessment. This is one I'm familiar with, I've used, and I feel like is incredibly affordable, being that it's free, and even if you're paying for the upgrade, makes sense in a lot of cases. So we hope you've caught a little bit of a vision today, how a well-built assessment platform can truly impact your classroom to enhance student and teacher experience alike.
And we want to thank you for joining us today on today's journey into the EdTech Unpacked, as we explored some of the ways in which classroom assessments can be used to enhance students' experience and measure learning, provide you as a teacher with the critical information that you need to evaluate your students' learning in real time, in a real-time capacity.
So what have we covered? We talked about the need to not just rely on the monitoring tools and restrictions available in these assessment platforms, but the importance of engaging your students as the high-quality teacher that you are. Classroom management, live interaction, and monitoring. How important is that? You cannot reduce the temptation for students to cheat without providing that accountability in a friendly and present way. We talked about picking an assessment platform that offers a rich database of questions, crowdsourced ideally, so you don't have to do all the work. We talked about picking an assessment platform that offers robust security features, which we highlighted in this episode. We talked about the importance of providing real-time feedback to students and how these types of assessment platforms are critical in being able to do that. We also talked about the critical nature of assessments in general. And we led with this, so I wanted to end with it. And that is, this is really where your instruction begins. It begins with determining, what do I want to communicate? What is most important for students to learn? Let me create an assessment around that. Let me put my energy into creating a high quality assessment that drives my instruction, not only to assess the student and what they know and learn and have mastered, but also to assess myself as a teacher to understand how effectively I have taught my students.
Now, we love hearing from you. Was this impactful for you? Are you excited, as excited as Aaron is to get into Pear assessments? Or do you have better assessment tools? We'd love to hear your feedback and questions. Let us know. Please go to our website, edtechunpack.com, where you can submit a audio recording or reach out to us through your contact form, or universities, higher ed, reach out to us so you can send us t-shirts. We're on to that. We hope that you reach out to us in whatever form you want.
So we've covered a lot today, and Desmond and I understand this can sometimes feel very overwhelming. Mm-hmm. There's a lot to tackle, especially when we're talking about technology. But we want you to remember that God has a great purpose and place for you in his plan.
Amen.
And we are stronger as we journey together. So we thank you for joining us on the journey today. And also, as we strive together to give our best for the calling of his Spirit. May we always lend a listening ear to our students in need. May our attempts to engage students through technology never interfere with our calling to minister to the heart and soul of students in need. And remember, there is no substitute for great teaching. It's not just about the tools and technology you use, but how you foster meaningful relationships with your students to transform their lives. Until next time.